All right, guys. So I'm gonna break down Trey Flowers. Right now, he's a pass rusher from Arkansas. If someone on Twitter is watching this, let me know if you can hear me correctly, just to make sure. So he's a pass rusher from Arkansas. He was not a force player, um, which is big for me as far as edge rushers is concerned. I think you have to to be successful. You have to have a certain amount of athletic ability at the next level, just because everyone is a freak athlete. Um, but John owning wrote a very good piece for Draft Breakdown on Trey Flowers, and everyone should read that. I just kind of wanted to go and show you guys a couple more clips. Um, he's a very good player. As far as like SEC rushers go, for my money, he's better than a guy like Shane Ray. And I'll kind of explain that a little bit. Like I said, he's a little bit athletically limited, but I think he's a strong end, as opposed to weak end, which are your typical premier pass rushers. So I think you can kind of do that a little bit differently. So we'll go through some of the tape right here. And this is one thing too, is the tape that I'm breaking down right now, as opposed to the Marcus Rush one, which I did earlier, which went off of the Shalik Calhoun and the Hackenberg tapes. These are all a Draft Breakdown, and they are actually under Trey Flowers. So this is him against Auburn, when Auburn was just absolutely killing it. You see, I believe he's a boundary edge player too, just like Rush was. So he's going to be playing on the short side of the field. So right now he's lined up over the left tackle. So you see there's the pulling right guard here, and he just kind of blows through that block, and he's able to wrap up the running back in the backfield for a tackle. He's actually pretty good short area burst type player, in the same way that Shane Ray is. And Shane Ray's, 40 time and 10 split were a little bit better than his, I believe. But as far as that's concerned, I mean, Shane Ray's really getting, or really got at least first round hype for that very reason. And I think Trey Flowers has that. Now, I'm not saying he's a first rounder. I have Trey Flowers as, I believe, a late second round grade, but I have a guy like Shane Ray, when Shane Ray wasn't able to do anything other than that short area burst, really, and kind of his ability to kind of shift through garbage. That to me is the third rounder. So this is just to say, the positives that people have for Trey Flowers. For Shane Ray, I also can attribute to Trey Flowers, and then and some. So he has a larger skill set, at least in my opinion. He's down here at the bottom of the screen this time, strong side on the boundary. So it's him going up against what is it, an H, and then you have this pulling guard again once more, kind of doubling him down, and he doesn't get like pancaked or anything. Part of it's because he's, that pulling guard has to go over the H. He's getting pushed back, and this is another thing that I was showing that I was trying to explain with Shane Ray, is his ability to kind of shift through trash to get the tackle. That's what he's doing here. I mean, he's working off of those two blocks, throws that pulling guard to the ground, gets into the running lane, and makes a tackle on the running back once more. Here he is again on the edge. This is a play of him showing a good ability of being able to keep outside containment, which is important for a defensive end in an odd alignment or an even alignment. Your job really is to just keep that outside shoulder clean and force everything inside or make the tackle outside. So right here, he's able to ride it out, keep that shoulder clean, wraps the guy up for a tackle with his long arms. And that's one huge positive for him, actually. If you were a little taller, not to say that height really matters, but to be able to throw more weight on that frame. If you were like 6'4", I'm not totally sure that he wouldn't be looked at as a 5 technique because of how long his arms are and his ability to play so well in the run game. So here he is at the bottom of the screen. There's a little motion. That block gets blown, and it's just him closing speed. So these are the same type of plays that people got very excited about with Shane Ray. I don't know if you – I mean, this kind of shows their, athletic bar. so to speak, for his short area quickness and his ability to just kind of use that giddy up to, just pin his ears back and just go after that guy. But these are somewhat of opportunistic plays, where this isn't necessarily always going to happen in the NFL. And that's kind of, if all your production is like this, and that's my issue with Shane Ray, having tackles completely blow blocks. That doesn't happen at the next level, so I'm not sure how much that translates. But he does show in athletic, from an athletic standpoint, he shows kind of that giddy up to get after guys. At the top of the screen this time. So he shifts in. Oh, this is an amazing play. So he shifts in with this safety that drops. You can see the safety coming down. So what ends up happening is he ends up taking that guard, and he's just one of his biggest strength really in the passing game is just his overall strength. Like he's just so strong. He's got those long arms. He can get a big push on a guy. So you see him going up against this right tackle or this right guard here. And he just kind of like picks him up. Like he just blows him out, just throws him a little bit through the quarterback. I mean, that really is amazing. That's why I say if he were a little bit taller and a little bit bigger, and right now I believe he's at 266 pounds based on his combine. If he were just a little bit bigger, I'm not sure that he wouldn't be looked at as kind of like a Vinny Curry type of pass rusher as far as like a 5 technique. 3-4 defensive end that's able to get after the passer. That might actually kind of be the prototype for him because he's kind of high cut too, which makes it hard for him to change direction and bend, which I'll show you guys a little bit later. But those guys, if you can throw some weight on them, they could be pass rushing 5 techniques. I just don't know how much it would have to be a true 3-4 defense to go after that, kind of like the Philadelphia Eagles do with Vinny Curry when he went from edge rusher to a 5 technique that rotates off the bench in passing situations. I'm not sure how much a team would value that necessarily, though. So here you see him kind of be able to shift through trash and stuff once more. He sees that guard pull, and with that guard pulling, he just follows him. And it's just, okay, follow him toward action. Once you see action, go after it. So right there, he makes sure he kind of overcorrects a little bit, but then he gets back to it, comes back to the play, and makes the tackle. Pretty sound run defense so far. He's a very good run defender. I think if he's going to play in an even front, he's probably going to be a strong end. So he's going to play over tight ends and stuff a lot. And right there, he kind of shows length and strength right there again. His ability right there to kind of press that guy out, uses his hands, and just kind of dumps him. And he kind of works his way out of a play. Just because of where the running back's running, and the I believe that's a tackle. Oh, the guard. That guard kind of, or no, actually that is a tackle. That tackle knows kind of that he just needs to shield him off, so he's fine with losing that battle and being able to shield him off. But still, he's able to show his strength on that play too. Got him here. That's just him playing against the tight end. That's not going to be able to work very often. He's just able to bam right there, just pushes that tackle off, and then it's just him against the tight end right there. Just completely chucks that tackle out of there. Then it's the tight end, and tight ends turn toward his toward the back end zone, and that's just not going to fly. Flowers comes in, kind of misses. He misses on Marshall because that tight end's just able to do enough to have him run right by Marshall, the quarterback. But still, he showed that ability to blow up that tackle is pretty impressive. Once more, Auburn does this a lot where they pull their guard. They run a lot of power and stuff. So once more, he sees that pull, he sees that motion, and he just kind of follows. He's there, shifted through traffic. Makes the tackle once more. Bottom of the screen this time, whenever it gets to it, we have the guy motion in on the very edge. And this is one play where he shows kind of his, I guess you'd say, athletic limitation. You look at the angle that he's taking. So he sees a running back right there, and the angle that he takes is just completely upfield. And that's not a bad thing, so to say, but he recognizes right here, that he's going to probably be the guy who makes the tackle if he cuts back in. And the angle that he takes ends up getting him wrapped up in for a first down on the 2nd and 10. That's the issue that I have as a weak side defender, is that he's just not the type of guy who's going to be able to chase down the back of a play efficiently. And that's not like a terrible thing. I don't think you need that as a defensive end. It sure helps, but he's going to need to be a strong side player, in my opinion. All right, so we got him at the bottom of the screen. This is another good one where I showed you guys this kind of in that rush tape. Instead of getting depth, really he just starts shuffling right as soon as he realizes there's something weird going on the play. That's not a standard play. All these guys are in motion. So he's not quick to get penetration. He's trying to read the play. And once he reads the play, he's figured out, okay, I have a guy inside that's open. I have me that's outside open, and there's only one blocker. So if neither of us become heroes, as long as he stays inside and I stay outside, one of us is going to be wide open in the backfield and make the tackle on the quarterback. So right here, be pulling offensive lineman, or I guess H, I guess, tries to get him, and he's able to – that's a big H. Tries to get him. He's able to make the tackle in the backfield. Both guys actually end up making it. A really good run play. Really good sound assignments and all of that. Against the tackle once more. See, this is his ability to – his heavy hands and his speed of power. He doesn't have amazing speed of power, and he doesn't really know how to use leverage. I mean, he's over the guy. But just that overall strength is just so strong that it ends up pushing that guy. And he drives him, and, this guard works off and kind of pushes him over. But look how far back he ends up driving that guy. He's almost like he could have nicked up Marshall's ankles on that play by just pushing the dude all the way through him. Overall, I mean that's a pretty impressive that's a pretty impressive power attempt from Flowers. We got him at the top of the screen this time. The tight end, there's an H and a motion back. Holds his own against the tight end, or holds his own against the H. Pushes into the backfield, keeps that arm clean, wraps him up. He's a very, very sound run defender. He's one of the best run defenders that I've seen as far as edge players are concerned. Bottom of the screen, once more, he sees these guys pulling. He says, okay, I'm going to stay out of I'm going to kind of stay out of the garbage for a little bit and let the play develop. That way I know how to take my approach on these guys. Comes in against the pulling guy. It's a pretty good shot. I mean, that's a pretty nice shot from these guys. That's why his ability to convert speed to power isn't great, but he can sure get that initial punch on an offensive lineman. Works toward the guy, and this once more is kind of his athletic limitation. So he works off of it. And some guys would have been able to wrap this play up in the backfield. He ends up missing just barely. He just barely misses the threshold on the giddy up right there. Misses, and the guy ends up taking it in for a couple yards. Now we have him against Missouri. This is the second tape that we're going to watch. A lot of this is more spread. As opposed, I mean, Auburn runs a spread, but it's not the exact same spread. I mean, they do a lot of pulling stuff. They do a lot of motion. They have, like I said, we've seen in this broadcast, there's a lot of tight ends. There's a lot of H movement. This is really just him against tackles. We have him on this stunt, and this is one thing that I noted about Shane Ray too. And I'll keep going back to that comparison because I kind of do view them as similar players, just Flowers being a plus version of him. His ability to stunt inside is pretty good just because he's able to work through traffic, work through all that garbage. So you have him stunting right here. You just get rid of that guy real quick. Just kind of swats his hands. I'm moving past. Now he's in an open lane. His problem is he couldn't really bend right there. Like a lot of guys that change direction, they would just stuck a foot in the dirt and just burst into the guy. But he's a little high cut. He runs a little straight up. So he doesn't really have that change of direction, that balance, that agility, just the flexibility to totally just burst into that guy. So he ends up kind of creating that pressure, but he doesn't get the sack. So that plays a little bit of a plus and a little bit of a minus. You just kind of got to ride with what type of guy he is at this point. Or bottom of the screen, going up against the tackle. And right there, so you're always going to get pushed. These frames are really important. You're always going to get pushed when you're rushing from the edge. What guys can do, though, is they're able to bend. He's not really able to bend, so when he gets pushed, he kind of folds, and he ends up getting scooted out, as opposed to having his feet out here, and instead of, kind of being the straight-up player, you bend out and you kind of run that arc toward the quarterback, and he's not really able to do that at this point, even though he is able to, work off that tackle and, kind of go after the quarterback there to clean up the play. He couldn't get the sack because of his inability to bend. I think this is the same play. Right there is where he folds. And what usually happens is a player's feet is usually the edge benders. Their feet are further out, and they're almost like it's almost the inverse of this, where they're tilted this way as opposed to just straight up. And that's like I said, that's one of his huge issues. So if you're gonna run with him, I mean, he doesn't really have the giddy up to be a wide nine, but that's a lot of issues that you see that makes guys wide nine only pass rushers, like guys like Nick Perry, who, if you have crazy burst and you can only run really straight up and you're not able to bend or anything, you got to play out super wide and just convert speed of power through a guy. And that's not really his game. His game is kind of just hand strength. He does show enough burst there to clean up the play, trip the quarterback up. Right there, you're able to see kind of a little bit of speed of power, inside hands, pushing through that guy. But it's still nothing amazing. I mean, it was a quick play, but it's nothing amazing. On the screen again. Right there with Tech, you see that long arm. That's when coaches talk about one arm is longer than two. He has long arms and then only uses one arm. So he able kind of puts in like a stilt on the inside of that tackle and just kind of tries to go around him. But once more, he's not really able to bend, and he doesn't have the giddy up to just completely put him behind like we were watching with Rush and like Vic Beasley and guys like that do. So he kind of gets stalled up, and that's really the issue. Is his athletic ability kind of hinders him a little bit, and that's why I think he could possibly play 5 technique at the next level. Here's at the top of the screen. Completely drives back that tight end. So I think this is the first time that we have him lined up against a tight end in this Missouri game. Just pushes him back, inside hands, keeps driving, and he just sets him back probably, what's that, 3 yards behind the line of scrimmage. And everyone else is able to clean up because of the holes that he, kind of made, the lanes. So here's something interesting that he's done. I think he does this one more time. It's not really a counter spin like we saw with Rush. It's really like an initial spin to in case they're doing like a little quick play. At least I believe if they're doing a little quick play, he's just trying to make it hard for the tackle to kind of get his hands on him. So it's just a moving body instantly, predetermined, so that he can kind of free himself up a little bit if it is a quick little pass. So we see that spin move. And then he kind of works off of him with his hands. I think there's an end zone replay after this. So he works off of him, long arms. He's got that short area burst. Takes him down. Or it's an overhead angle, I guess. It's not an end zone angle. So you have him there with the spin. You see his hands. See him slide through. Wraps the guy up for a sack. Top of the screen. It's the same thing. He kind of almost like lifts him up a little bit and then just drops his hands and slides by. He's quick enough that he's able to do that. Throws his hands up into the passing lane, doesn't get a piece of it, but he made his presence known on that play. Right there. You're able to see he's kind of got leverage on the guy. Used his power. He's already pushed his hips through right there. Inside hands. Slides by with technique. Pushes guy back. Open space. Oh, this is a different play. Different play, but it's winning the same way. I mean, you see this pretty consistently. Like I said, the past 3 cuts has pretty much been the same exact play. Open space, closing in. It's a guy for a sack. Sack fumble. Where's he at? Top of the screen. Same thing once more. Just beats him with technique. Kind of ragdolls the guy. Open space. And that's another thing is you see he's not truly balanced because of the way that he has to use his hands. That kind of gives you a hint on what type of an athlete he is. But once it gets corrected, closing speed, change of direction is an issue. You see those arms flying once more. Like I said, he doesn't really have all of that balance. It's kind of reckless out there and just hoping that his feet land in the right spot. But he's a high cut athlete. That's kind of what happens when you got those high hips. But he was able to get the pressure there. I think this is the same play. I think I'm right this time. Slides by. Oh, there's another play. Jeez. Same thing. It's just he kind of gets on the inside of the guy, pushes, busts his hip, and just slides through. Here it is again, that initial spin move, just to make it hard for the tackle to get his hands on him. So right there, you see him spinning. Right there, you see the push. And he actually ends up batting the ball, I believe, on this play. Top of the screen. Once more, just that power. It's just him just drive and effort, really. Not necessarily pushing through the guy, but an attempt to kind of free himself. There's no real bend there. It's just him using his hands to work his way into space and his feet just not stopping. So forces the quarterback out. Gets a quarterback hit. Gets a quarterback pressure. Top of the screen. Boundary defensive end. I think this is the play. Yeah. So this is a really interesting play. He gets inside of the tackle. And the running back comes and helps him once the running back sees there's no guy that he necessarily needs to go after by himself. So the running back kind of launches at the combo of those two. And what happens is the 2 Missouri players get knocked down, and Flowers kind of just tosses the running back to the ground and is still standing. When you talk about a guy who's kind of stout, even in the passing game, not even necessarily the running game, the ability to do stuff like this, I mean, just shows overall strength as a player. That's really where he wins. He's at the top of the screen. It pushes the guy. Kind of tries a little swim move past him. I don't know why I kept that cut in. Right there, uses the hands, numbs his hands. So he's really just kind of grabbing at air. This is the issue where you see the athlete in him, where he's just kind of just trying to avoid and just trying to catch himself back in space. Right there, where you see his feet and how far the split they are. That won't happen to a guy like Vic Beasley. That won't happen to a guy like Preston Smith. Um, that just doesn't happen. That doesn't happen to Randy Gregory, for example. Um, but you got to kind of live and die with his bar of athleticism, um, and just live with that as a pass rusher, with his technique, and just completely play him kind of as a run defender almost. So here we see a bit. This is a counter move. This is a counter spin. This isn't that initial stuff. You see him sell out, the right tackle sell out and look toward the sideline, which is a telltale sign of, oh, okay, now I get to go inside for free. And he recognized this, gets the spin, and the guard picks him up. But still, if you were on an island and that guard were occupied, he probably would have been able to at least pressure the quarterback, if nothing else, if the play was at least a little longer or something like that. His ability to recognize when he needs to use a counter move is interesting. He doesn't do this often. I believe this is the only time he kind of worked that inside spin counter, but it's there. It's on film now. Off the screen, boundary. This shows his long arms too. Pushes on the guy and his jumps. I think his jumps were pretty solid. They weren't elite, but they were pretty solid. You just see him jump up, knock down that pass when he knows he's in the throwing lane. More. Right there. He times it correctly. I mean, the other guy jumped too early. He nailed it. He really does play like a 5 technique in a 4-3 defensive end's body. This is an interesting one because he's at the top of the screen. He's not playing on the boundary this time. He's playing as a field defensive end. So it's 1-on-1 against the tackle. Initial chuck, slides by. Once more, he shoots those arms out. I mean, that's not really that's not how athletes move. At least elite athletes, as far as edge rushers are concerned. But you can live with that if he has technique like he does. Throws his arms up. Tries to get another play. Bottom of the screen. It's the tight end. Lows that tight end up. Discards him. Goes in for the running back. But he doesn't have the closing speed to totally wrap him up by himself. Once more, that's my issue with him as a weak side defender, not even necessarily a pass rusher. He can't really clean up plays like that, which is a bit of a concern. But on the strong side, where everything usually is coming toward you and you have to move less and it's more about strength and closing speed, I think he could succeed. He's very good at assignment football. So at the top of the screen here. So he's left totally free to make a move on the running back. It's that little push from the quarterback right there. But that almost helps him toward the running back. And he's not able to make the play. Just misses the guy. Ends up taking it in for a touchdown. And that's really what you worry about as him as a weak side defender. Like I said, he's on the weak side this time. Or the backside at least. If he's playing over a tight end, he's probably not going to be a backside defender very often. So you'd assume that he wouldn't be in this position. I mean, they kind of acknowledge that he's not the type of guy who's going to be able to run down the back of a play, especially if you get that little push from the quarterback, which wasn't really effective. But I mean, they game planned that and they got it. He's not the type of athlete who's able to do stuff like that. All right, so that's it. Trey Flowers, I believe at the end of the day, he's probably a second, third round type guy. I'm not sure if he'd be in like my top 50 per se, but I could totally see him being drafted in the second round to a team who needs a strong side edge player. I'm also not opposed to him playing 5 technique if he's able to throw some weight on, but he's not a very tall dude. I believe he's 6'2". Guys like Vinny Curry were able to do it. Even as being labeled as pass rushing 5 techniques coming off a bench. I don't think you spend a second rounder on that. But if a team is more long term orientated, I could totally see them making a move like that, and I would back it. So thanks again, guys. If you guys have any suggestions, I'm definitely willing to hear it. JUMOSQ on Twitter. Go back and listen and watch to the Marcus Rush, film breakdown that I did earlier. He's an edge rusher from Michigan State who's very underrated. That's it. Thanks, guys.